What's good, y'all? RCA the Great back with another video. This is going to be RCA's roster reviews episode 2. We go over your teams, but before we get into that, I want to ask you guys a question. Now, this question is going to have a reward attached to it. So, who do you guys think is going to be the first auctionable Galaxy Opal card we get in NBA 2K22 MyTeam? Whoever can be auctioned out the first Galaxy Opal impacts, who do you think that's going to be? If you get the answer right to this question, either console, we're going to put you into a pool and we're going to randomly select one person with the correct answer that's going to get a free unlimited grind. So whoever the unlimited reward of the month is, we will grind that for you for free if you get the correct answer. So make sure you drop those comments down below, but let's get into episode 2 of RCA's roster reviews. Let's go. If you're looking for safe and reliable grinding services, hit up Cliff2_3 on Twitter. Alright, y'all, so now as always, before we get started with your teams, I wanted to show you my team first, but let's do something before that. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe because I am on the road to 13,000 subscribers. And if you like the video, make sure you hit that like because it does help me out a lot. Now, starting off with my squad, we do have Ricky Rubio, Klay Thompson, Carmelo Anthony, Andre Karolinko, and Moses Malone starting off. I've already done Showdown tier. I'm completely done with Unlimited. I don't have much to grind for besides Kevin Garnett. So I did sell 2 of my top players, which was Anthony Davis and Dolph Shea. So I'm able to have 634K MT going into this coming Friday. We got Paul George coming out, and there's going to be some cards coming out in the next couple weeks I'll be able to scoop up. We do have Gary Payton, Jaylen Brown, Paul Silas, Wilt Chamberlain. My team is pretty decent. I'm going to be looking to add some more pieces as we go. Probably going to be looking to add that Paul George tomorrow or Jason Tatum. Not sure. We might get some heavy hitters. We're going to see. I really am liking this Ricky Rubio. I'm going to be giving you guys some kind of gameplay review on him. But overall, my team is pretty solid. Let's move into your team and let's tell you how I would run your squads and what I'd be doing if I had your team and I was using them, or what I would do to save MT if I had your team. Let's do it. All right, so the first team that we have coming through is from my man Sharp VD, or his name is Alex on Twitter. He said he's struggling right now in Unlimited because he doesn't know what playbook to use running a specific lineup, and he's struggling to find a point guard off the bench. He's currently using Walt. Any help would be appreciated. So looking at the team, we got Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Carmelo Anthony, Nicholas Batum, DeAndre Ayton. Smaller lineup, although Batum and Carmelo Anthony can kind of hold their own inside. If somebody is looking to play an inside game against you, you may struggle there. Along with the rebounding, DeAndre Ayton is a pretty good rebounder and shooter, but he is not the strongest. So if you can replace that position, but we're not going to be worried about that too much right now. What I want you to replace is your point guard position. You said you're currently running Walt off the bench. That's decent. You can pick yourself up a Drew Holiday for very cheap. But I also wanted to show you another card that you can add and take this Chris Paul out. And this card is going to be very, very cheap. All right, so right here on my screen, we have Ruby Eric Snow. You can get him for less than 5,000 MT most likely. And looking at his stats compared to Gary Payton, who you get from Unlimited, he's 6'3", 95 defense. But look at his 3-ball at a 93, and he has a nice shot. He also has 86 ball handle. He's going to give you an 88 steal with 93 perimeter defense, 94 speed with ball, 94 acceleration, and 95 lateral quickness. So defensive-minded point guard comes with 28 gold badges, and you can upgrade some of them if you need to. This is a no-brainer to pick up for your squad. Make sure you go get you an Eric Snow. You can throw him in your starting point guard position if you would like to. I would definitely get rid of Chris Paul because of his height, but also there's better options at the point guard position at this time that you can use that can both shoot and play defense. So let's move back to your squad. The bench, you have James Harden, Caron Butler, Robert Covington, Josh Smith, and then you have some cards just as placeholders, which is fine. I do like the Josh Smith as center. Robert Covington is also a good player that just came out and you evoed him, which is very good. I would definitely keep him there. Your team is lower rated overall, so you should be playing against other lower rated teams, so you should be able to fare well. You're going to run into problems if you play against these high-powered teams that just have every pink diamond or diamond card. That's going to create an issue, but if you have a good strategy, you're going to be okay. So let's talk about playbooks and freelances. Playbook for this team, I would definitely be looking to run the Rockets to get DeAndre Ayton out and open with some shots off the pick and fade actions. But your freelancers, you can also run something like a nice 4-out 1-in, or I could try some series. Iverson series would be nice with this team to get a lot of actions going off for your shooters. but also Double Drag, as I covered in 2K21, is back in the game. If you don't know how to run series, I'm going to be putting a tutorial on how to do that. They did change how you have to do it. But you're going to have openings to drive to the basket and kick out to your shooters. I would be running your offense with this team through Carmelo Anthony. If you really would like to run the offense through one player, has to go through Carmelo Anthony, as he's one of the best ball handlers on your team. He has the best shooting. He can just create. If you have one of the best defenders on him, it's going to be difficult for your squad. So what I would try to do is try to bring in James Harden to start on your team and move Devin Booker to the backup shooting guard position. This would allow you to have another ball handler in your starting lineup. You don't have too many players that can create for you, so you're definitely going to have to use some play actions and get people coming up for screens to get you some open looks. And your defense is going to have to be on par as well, because you don't have many great lockdown defenders. I do not see one lockdown defender on this court besides Josh Smith and possibly Nicholas Batum. Other than that, you're going to struggle on defense. So having this Eric Snow that I mentioned is definitely going to help you out there as well. If you have any more problems, hit me up in the DMs. We're going to move on to the second team. All right, y'all. Second team we're going to be covering comes from Wiley G241 or 4241. He's got Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, Jaylen Brown, Carmelo Anthony, and Jokic off the starters. And then the bench, Drew Holiday, Kobe, Larry Bird, Dwight Howard. He says he runs a 9-man lineup, and he's waiting for KD to be a little bit cheaper so that he can purchase him. So I definitely understand that. You did lock in the Dwight Howard, so that's where a lot of your MT went, along with that Larry Bird. So you did lock in a lot of MT, which I don't recommend early in the game, but you already did it, so it's okay. So what I'm seeing with the starters is the inside defense is really, really bad. Jokic can't even hold water on defense. I ran him, but I did have to have somebody like Josh Smith on the court with him. So I would definitely try to pick up a Josh Smith if you could to start at your power forward and move Carmelo Anthony to your small forward, move Jaylen Brown to your backup small forward, have Larry Bird as your backup power forward, and then have Dwight Howard as your backup center. Now your team is complete. You have somebody that can defend inside with Jokic, and you don't have to worry about that too much. You can have Josh Smith play a pick and roll, and now Jokic isn't too much of a liability. I would definitely recommend that. After that, your team is pretty much complete. You're fine. But you don't have any inside presence with your starters right now. If you bring Dwight Howard in, he gets tired. Now Jokic has to come in, and he doesn't have anybody on the court with him that could defend inside at all on your team. Larry Bird, Carmelo, there's no big presence on your team that can stop somebody inside besides Dwight Howard, and he has to take the place of Jokic. So you can't play them both at the same time. Got to go get yourself a Josh Smith, and that's going to help your team tremendously. You said you run the Golden State Warriors freelance and playbook, which is totally fine, and you have quick first step on your Jaylen Brown, which is nice. I would definitely run him off of your bench. You can even possibly start Kobe if you wanted to. It all depends what you want to do. Klay Thompson and Steph Curry both give you great ball handling. If you bring Kobe off the bench with Drew Holiday, Kobe can run the ball for you. So that's you have a lot of good things going for you besides that inside defensive presence. That's what I'm going to say about that, and let's move on to the third team. All right, y'all. Our third team comes from Daryl Calhoun on Twitter. And he said advice on his point guards and bigs, who to start, who to bench, and who to sell. His coach is Snyder Amonte, and he wants to know what playbook and play style he could possibly have as suggestions. So we got Trae Young, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis, David Robinson, Moses Malone, Ricky Rubio, Jaylen Brown, Joel Embiid, Vince Carter, Isaiah Thomas, Nicholas Batum, Andre Kirilenko. This is a loaded squad. So much going on right now. So I'm going to take the save MT approach for you. I'm not sure how competitive you are, but these are the moves we're going to make to save you MT for later on in the year and keep your team good enough to win unlimited games. Hope that makes sense. So first thing we're going to do, we're moving Andre Kirilenko to starting power forward. We're going to be selling AD and we're selling Kevin Durant because they're going for high MT right now. And by the end of the season, there's going to drop in MT. And you're just going to be saving yourself some MT in the long run. So Andre Kirilenko is now your starting power forward. And we're going to be moving Jaylen Brown or Nicholas Batum. Let's say Nicholas Batum is going to be going to your starting small forward spot. So you got Nicholas Batum starting small forward. Kirilenko is your starting power forward, along with David Robinson as your center and Trae Young as your point guard, which is pretty decent. Now you have Trae Young and Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas is still one of the best point guards in the game. You just saved some MT by selling Kevin Durant and Anthony Davis, so we don't need to save you that much more MT. We're going to sell Trae Young, and we're going to keep Isaiah Thomas as your starting point guard. I do like Ricky Rubio, but not everybody likes the card based on his dribbling style, so it's up to you. If you don't like his dribbling style, you're going to go get yourself a Drew Holiday that can just play better defense, and he's just going to be a cone-style player that can shoot open, but he's going to give you great defense. Ricky Rubio can play make, and he plays decent defense, but he does not give you the defense that Drew Holiday gives, and he overall offensively, I do think he's way better if you just know how to use his skill set. So I'm keeping Rubio if I'm you, and I'm selling Trae Young. Because Trae Young, although he has great defense, he is only 6'1", and you have Isaiah Thomas that can play defense, shoot, and dunk. You can just put in that position. So now you got Isaiah Thomas as your starting point guard. I do like the Moses Malone. I'm going to keep him because he's going for low MT, and he's a great inside center. I'm going to be selling that Joel Embiid to get me some more MT because not only is Joel Embiid slow, but he's still going for over 100K. So get that 100K while you can. And now you're selling Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis, and Joel Embiid. You're getting close to 700K MT by just selling those three players. You get 700K MT, and now you're on the road to being able to have any of the new cards that come out. If you wanted to go even further, you could also sell Vince Carter because there's other cards out right now that you can go ahead and grab to get you the same bang for your buck that Vince Carter would give you. So let me give you some tips on who you can grab instead. All right, we are currently back on my screen and your Vince Carter replacement. Since Vince Carter is going for about 100K MT, you can't buy him out right now, so you probably get about 80 to 100K MT. You can pick yourself up a nice Tobias Harris who can defend, shoot. He can do everything on the court, and you're going to be saving yourself about 40 to 50K MT. He's going to replace your Vince Carter, and then Jaylen Brown's going to run your backup shooting guard while Vince Carter or Tobias Harris runs your backup small forward position. Keeping in mind, now you have 750 or 800K MT to still go get whoever you want if you wanted to add somebody else to your team. So now we got Joel Embiid's gone, Vince Carter's gone, Nicholas Batum has moved to your backup power forward if you need him to, or Tobias Harris is your backup power forward, Nicholas Batum is your backup small forward, Jaylen Brown's your backup shooting guard, Ricky Rubio is your backup point guard, Moses Malone is your center. You have cleared out your squad and you have tons of MT to work with to get whoever drops in the coming weeks. That is beautiful right there, and your team is still competitive as long as you run the right stuff. So now with your starters, David Robinson out there, you got Andre Karolinko at power forward. I would definitely be running the Blazers playbook because you got a lot of pick and roll actions for Isaiah Thomas to run through. He can get to the basket, or you can also run the Rockets playbook that has a lot of pick and roll actions to get him open for some easy dunks, and that's going to draw the defense inside so you can kick out to D-Rob and AK for three. If you're looking at a freelance, we're obviously going to be going Hawks freelance, pick and roll, get that spacing because you want Isaiah Thomas running to the rack as much as possible because he is a threat going to the rack because he does have that high dunk. That's what I will be doing with your starting. And overall, your team has a full overhaul and you have 800K MT to work with. Hopefully those tips help. Let's move on to the next team, y'all. All right, y'all. The next team we got comes from 0824 on Twitter. He's got Drew Holiday, James Harden, Andre Karolinko, Nicholas Batum, and David Robinson as his starters. He said he's running the Bucks playbook and he has 600K MT, mainly Iverson plays and pick and roll with the 5 out. All right, so not bad at all. So the starters, Drew Holiday, James Harden, Karolinko, Batum, David Robinson, very good. Defense is on point here. Batum is very slept on. He's a very good player, although I would probably move Karolinko to power forward unless Batum is a better rebounder, which I do think he is. Or you just like to run your lock through small forward, which I know a lot of people do. That's completely fine. So you can have the point guard be defended by either Drew Holiday or Karolinko on your team. That is not an issue at all. Your team is going to be very defensive sound. You can run your offense through James Harden if you need somebody to cook up a little bit, but you can also run plays. If you were going to be running 5-out pick and roll, I'm running the pick and roll with James Harden as well. So he's somebody on your team that can do that. So he's somebody on your team that can do that for you. But you don't have anybody in your team that's literally like lights out offensively that's going to be able to create that spark for you. Now, if you're really good with James Harden, he can do that. But getting somebody else out there like an Isaiah Thomas that's kind of just unguardable in certain situations will be good. Not that you need to, but you have the MT available if you wanted to do that. Your offense, I think, is completely fine. And your defense with your starters. Now, moving to your bench, we got to make some adjustments. I do think that the Serge Ibaka at this point of the game is starting to get a little bit too slow for what he does. Now, some replacements that I would look to get on your squad will probably be Miles Turner, that diamond card if you're looking to not spend too much MT. But if you wanted to splurge a little bit and buy somebody more expensive, I think you can go ahead and pick up somebody like this Chris Webber. Right now, for a diamond contract, diamond shoe, and kind of badge out, you can get yourself a Chris Webber for around 100 or 130K MT. Now, you said you have 600K, so be very mindful of how much MT you're able to make and stuff, because this might be too big of a purchase. But an upgrade over Ibaka defensively and offensively would be somebody like this Chris Webber, and he gives you way better speed on the team as well. So that's something that you can look into if you really want to upgrade. If not, you can definitely go with a Miles Turner. You go ahead and get yourself a Miles Turner. You'll be more than fine out there as well. But he's just not as good defensively, laterally, as the Chris Webber is going to be. So you got your Miles Turner right here. He's not going for 100K. You can get him for a buyout. But he's going to give you offense like the Ibaka does. He's just going to give you a little bit better perimeter defense, and he's going to be slightly faster than Ibaka. So that's why I will go ahead and get Miles Turner if you didn't want to spend 100K MT. Now, going back to your bench, we just got yourself a Miles Turner or a Chris Webber. You can move the Josh Smith to center if Chris Webber is going to be on your team, and you can leave Josh Smith as power forward if Miles Turner is going to be on your team. The reason why, because the speed is a little bit better with Josh Smith, that power forward with Miles Turner. Now we got Chris Paul that we got to get rid of. He doesn't cost very much MT, but you can be way more effective by having Eric Snow out there because he's a bigger body. He has better defense out there, and he is going to still give you the offense besides like the dimer that Chris Paul gives you. But I do think replacing Chris Paul with Eric Snow is going to make your team a little bit better on the defensive end and still keep your offense sound. Bingo Smith is your shooting guard, which is okay. You do have some players that you can upgrade to for without spending very much MT, but I think keeping him there at this time is not that big of a deal unless you really wanted to change things over. If you wanted to change things over, you could easily move your Bruce Bowen down to shooting guard and then go get yourself somebody like a Kawhi Leonard for your small forward position, or another small forward that you like that plays good defense and can give you some shooting. I do like Kawhi because he's not very expensive. He's going to keep your MT spending down, and he's still going to keep your team competitive out there. So your bench would be Eric Snow, Bruce Bowen, Kawhi Leonard, Josh Smith, and then Chris Webber or Miles Turner. Now, with that bench, you don't have many players on the court that can create on the offensive end. So what I would most likely do is try to move James Harden down to your bench and then bring somebody up to your starters. You're going to still have like 550K MT left with this squad. And if you really wanted to spend on somebody else, I'll be looking for somebody that can create on the offensive end. Somebody that's going to be able to get you some buckets without having to call any kind of plays. You can just go pick and roll with them and they can get you a bucket. And that's going to be somebody like the Isaiah Thomas, somebody like the Kobe Bryant, somebody like a Klay Thompson. It sounds like saying Klay Thompson like that is crazy, but they did update his ball handling, so he's crazy cracked and he can shoot from deep. So somebody like that is going to turn your team up. And Klay Thompson's going for about 150 right now, so I would hold off until he goes down a little bit. But overall, your team is pretty sound. Running the pick and roll and the Iverson plays is definitely fine, because if they switch anything on the Iverson plays, you got David Robinson out there that's going to be able to punish anybody inside. So overall, your team is pretty good. We want to save some of your MT while making some minor upgrades. And those are the ones off the top of my head that I would definitely look into. And as more cards drop, depending on your play style, we'll have some different suggestions as well. All right, y'all, this next team, I really don't have many suggestions for. This comes from Unpluckable, but I will talk about how I would run the offense and defense if I was running this team. He's got a pretty good balanced squad. He's not using too much MT, and he says he is currently still going for the Gary Payton and Unlimited. So we got Isaiah Thomas, Klay Thompson, Kawhi Leonard, Carmelo Anthony, and Dikembe Mutombo, Eric Snow, James Harden, ML Carr, Glenn Robinson, Wilt, and Josh Smith. This is a pretty solid team overall. There is not many holes at all. There are some upgrades that can be made at different positions if you really wanted to. But overall, your team is solid. This is a solid squad that you can run up against pretty much anyone. And if you have the right game plan, you're going to be able to do well. In your starters, you can run the ball through Isaiah Thomas or Klay Thompson or even Carmelo Anthony if you wanted to. You are playing small ball, but you got Dikembe Mutombo out there who's 7'2", who is going to be able to get almost every single rebound. He's going to be able to mash inside, and he's going to be able to stop mashing inside for the most part because matching's kind of OP. You can run plays to have Klay Thompson coming off screens, Kawhi coming off screens, Carmelo coming off screens. This offense is going to be very hard to stop with Isaiah Thomas going to the basket at all times, threatening the lane. You have mismatch experts out there with Carmelo Anthony. You have sharpshooting with Klay Thompson. I think your starters are completely fine because you have Kawhi, Klay Thompson that can both guard ball, Carmelo that can pretty much guard anybody on the court besides a big center. Isaiah Thomas is going to have to guard somebody that's either handling the ball or somebody that's not going to be too threatening inside because they will post him up. Other than that, you're fine. Your bench defensively is still good. Eric Snow, James Harden, ML Carr. ML Carr is the weakest offensive player on your bench, but he can still hit wide open, so I would have him standing in the corner or coming off screens most of the time or even handling the ball to get to the basket. James Harden will be the main ball handler on the team for me off the bench because he can cook up. But then you got Eric Snow, who's also very good. Do not sleep on this Ruby Eric Snow. Very good card. For those of you watching this, if you're looking for a backup point guard, Ruby Eric Snow for 5K MT, you really cannot beat it. You got Josh Smith and Wilt Chamberlain. Only thing I will say, off your bench, you do not have a center that can actually shoot the ball at a pretty good clip. Josh Smith can hit, but unless you really know how to shoot with him well, he will miss a lot of shots. So getting yourself a center that can shoot off the bench will be me just being picky. Other than that, your team is completely fine for both the budget and competitive standpoint because you're running a lot of reward cards, but you do have some key pieces out there that you have to buy from the auction house that just make your team that much better. Like this team a lot. All right, y'all, we got another team here that we're going to be covering. Then we're going to do like 2 bonus teams or 3 bonus teams that are kind of fine, and we're just going to shout them out. So this team comes from Garvin. Actually played him in Unlimited the other day, and he says he's running the Blazers playbook, Curry coach, running Iverson series, and he struggles on defense and wants to get out of Diamond Tier. Now, I will say, when we did play the game the other day, Garvin, I noticed you did run the Iverson series, but sometimes you baited your passes a lot. So make sure that when you're running the Iverson series, you're being more candid, and when you're going to pass, you're using more misdirection, and you're using what the defense gives you. Don't just try to go where you want to go when they're trying to take it away. So that's one tip on offense. But you're running Tyrese Maxey, Klay Thompson, Carmelo Anthony, Andre Kirilenko, Miles Turner. I'm not sure what your MT is looking like, so we're not going to really speak on saving MT or anything like that. Jason Terry, James Harden, Chris Mullin, Nicholas Batum, and Ray for friends. Now, you say you struggle on defense, right? I don't see any defensive cards out here, my man. I don't see any defensive cards out here, and you struggle on defense. Besides Andre Kirilenko and Klay Thompson, who Klay is very good on defense, but he's not like super where you're like, oh man, he's gonna stop me every single play. Klay's a good defender, but he's not like the AK. So why do we not have defenders out here if we struggle on defense, man? You can't have Jason Terry and Chris Mullin and Nicholas Batum out there and you're struggling on defense. Well, Rafe LaFrance as your center, man. Come on, my man. Come on. So what we gonna do? We're going to go pick yourself up the nice Moses Malone, because Moses Malone is going to turn you up on defense, especially off the bench. You can start him or you can bench him. But we're going to get Rafe LaFrance up out of there. You're running a playbook, so you don't need somebody out there that can shoot from a high clip. And Moses can shoot pretty well. So he's like 80K right now, 70K. Get yourself a Moses, and your inside defense is going to shoot right up, my man. You're going to start him over Miles Turner. You're going to bring Miles Turner off the bench, okay? Now, Jason Terry's got to go if you're struggling on defense. He's a great shooter. He's amazing. You bring in somebody like Eric Snow, you bring in somebody like Drew Holiday, your defense is going to get better. Jason Terry is not going to give you that kind of defensive presence. Same with Tyrese Maxey. He's a pretty good player, but he's not going to give you the the presence. I know you're looking to get that Gary Payton, but in order to get to Gary Payton, you got to get your defense a little bit better. Now, I'm going to need you to be a little bit more stingy in the lanes and stuff like that. When we were playing, you were letting me get some passes off that I shouldn't have been able to get off. Go watch my baited video on how to get into the lanes and bait people to make certain passes and be more stingy out there. And then another thing, we got Chris Mullin as backup small forward. Now, he is a sharpshooter. He's great on offense, but we need defense right now. We need defense. So we're going to go Evo that Robert Covington, or we're going to go get ourselves a Kawhi. We're going to keep Nicholas Batum because he's a pretty good defender, but we're going to leave Chris Mullin at the end of the bench, and we're going to bring in Kawhi or Rocco as our backup small forward, power forward, and then we're going to have a better overall defensive team with Drew Holiday, Eric Snow, and those guys out there, and then we're going to have Moses Malone as our center, and now we're not going to be getting cooked on the defensive end. So when we played, I definitely do remember your team not being very strong defensively. So make sure you upgrade your defense if you want to be a better defender. Not offensive cards, unless you're a very high defender like Ty Debo or somebody like that, you can't just use offensive cards and expect to have good defense. So that's what I'm going to say about that. Hopefully you guys make those upgrades. Now we're going to move to some of the bonus teams that just sent them in, and I just think they're really good teams. We're going to put them on the screen real quick. All right, y'all. The next team we got comes from Illmatic on Twitter, and he says, here's my team. If it's not too late, I try to play the zone defense. Is this a lineup that's good for that? What bench advice do you have for me? For the playbook, I run the Blazers and some other playbooks you cover. What other advice do you have for me? Okay, I see you working with 476k MT, so we're going to be using some of that, my guy. You're running a zone defense, and what I'm noticing is that your rebounding is not very good, and your bench needs a lot of help. So we're going to work on that right now. So one of the first things I want you to do is get a slightly bigger lineup for your starters if you're going to be playing the zone, because you're going to be struggling with rebounding. Zone defense makes it very difficult to rebound the basketball. So I think your power forward needs to be a little bit bigger. What I'm going to do for your team, most likely, if you're running a zone, you're going to be trying to get a lot of turnovers, right? I'm going to move Josh Smith to power forward. And we're going to spend our first bit of MT. We're going to go pick up Moses Malone because he's going to give you a nice inside presence. Plus, he's still very fast. He can play power forward or center. If you want to keep Josh Smith at center, that's fine because he is a little bit faster. So Moses Malone is going to go for about 60k MT or less. We're going to be trying to spend 120k of your MT. That's still going to leave you at 350, right? So Moses Malone is the first piece. That's going to allow you to move Nicholas Batum down to your backup small forward position. You can leave Covington there, or you can put Covington to the bench. That is completely up to you. I'm fine with both of those players. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to get you new point guards. You can keep Tyrese Maxey, but I'm going to give you two different point guards that you can use. Kyle Lowry and Eric Snow. If you pick up both of these cards, it's going to cost you about 30k MT total. So that's another 30k MT. So now we're at 90k MT spent. The next card I'm going to try to get you is going to be the Bruce Bowen. He's going for about 8 to 10k. He's going to be your backup small forward instead of this Kelly Oubre. You're going to be able to use that Bruce Bowen there. And then if you want to get a backup power forward, I highly recommend getting yourself a Kawhi Leonard that can play there. He's going to go for about 20k MT. So we're at like 120k MT so far. And now you do need a backup center. I would possibly leave Chris there and try to bounce Josh Smith back and forth between there if you can with your bench. But if you do want to pick up another center from your bench, I definitely recommend picking up somebody like this Amethyst Dennis Rodman. And what this is going to do is allow you to be able to put Josh Smith at your backup center, and you can run Moses Malone and Dennis Rodman together, or you can run Dennis Rodman and Josh Smith together and bring Moses Malone off the bench. But Dennis Rodman gives you a nice blend of great rebounding, great defense, and he's not a liability because he can shoot. And as you can see, he's going for less than like 15k MT. You can get him for like 12k MT, 10k MT. So I definitely recommend picking up this guy, and that well rounds your defense to be able to play the zone how you like to play it. And now you have a bunch of pieces on your team for 130k MT or less. And then you still have about 350k MT left that you'll be able to hold on to for later on, and you'll be able to use this team in unlimited. Now, Blazers playbook is definitely going to work with this squad as well, but you're going to have to make sure you got James Harden as your primary ball handler or Donovan Mitchell as your primary ball handler. That's why I did not move those guys, because they're your best shooters and they're your best creators on your team at the time. So you want to keep them running the ball for you. Running plays is going to get the Covingtons and the Batums and those guys open. So you just got to run those guys off screens and you'll be more than fine. They can all shoot, and you really want to focus on defense, creating fast break steals with the Kyle Lowry, with the Eric Snow, with your defensive team out there, the Kawhi Leonard, Josh Smith. All those guys that you have out there are going to help you on defense. You need to get steals. You need to get fast break points if that's how you're going to play. So that's the recommendation I have there. Hopefully that helps. If you need more help with this team, definitely let me know. All right, y'all, we got another team here that we're going to be covering. Then we're going to do like 2 bonus teams or 3 bonus teams that are kind of fine, and we're just going to shout them out. So this team comes from Garvin. Actually played him in Unlimited the other day, and he says he's running the Blazers playbook, Curry coach, running Iverson series, and he struggles on defense and wants to get out of Diamond Tier. Now, I will say, when we did play the game the other day, Garvin, I noticed you did run the Iverson series, but sometimes you baited your passes a lot. So make sure that when you're running the Iverson series, you're being more candid, and when you're going to pass, you're using more misdirection, and you're using what the defense gives you. Don't just try to go where you want to go when they're trying to take it away. So that's one tip on offense. But you're running Tyrese Maxey, Klay Thompson, Carmelo Anthony, Andre Kirilenko, Miles Turner. I'm not sure what your MT is looking like, so we're not going to really speak on saving MT or anything like that. Jason Terry, James Harden, Chris Mullin, Nicholas Batum, and Ray for Prince. Now, you say you struggle on defense, right? I don't see any defensive cards out here, my man. I don't see any defensive cards out here, and you struggle on defense. Besides besides Andre Kirilenko and Klay Thompson, who Klay is very good on defense, but he's not like super where you're like, oh man, he's gonna stop me every single play. Klay's a good defender, but he's not like the AK. So why do we not have defenders out here if we struggle on defense, man? You can't have Jason Terry and Chris Mullin and Nicholas Batum out there and you're struggling on defense. Well, Rafe LaFrentz as your center, man. Come on, my man. Come on. So what we going to do? We're going to go pick yourself up the nice Moses Malone, because Moses Malone is going to turn you up on defense, especially off the bench. You can start him or you can bench him. But we're going to get Rafe LaFrentz up out of there. You're running a playbook, so you don't need somebody out there that can shoot from a high clip. And Moses can shoot pretty well. So he's like 80K right now, 70K. Get yourself a Moses, and your inside defense is going to shoot right up, my man. You're going to start him over Miles Turner. You're going to bring Miles Turner off the bench, okay? Now, Jason Terry's got to go if you're struggling on defense. He's a great shooter. He's amazing. You bring in somebody like Eric Snow, you bring in somebody like Drew Holiday, your defense is going to get better. Jason Terry's not going to give you that kind of defensive presence. Same with Tyrese Maxey. He's a pretty good player, but he's not going to give you the defensive presence. I know you're looking to get that Gary Payton, but in order to get to Gary Payton, you've got to get your defense a little bit better. Now, I'm going to need you to be a little bit more stingy in the lanes and stuff like that. When we were playing, you were letting me get some passes off that I shouldn't have been able to get off. Go watch my baited video on how to get into the lanes and bait people to make certain passes and be more stingy out there. And then another thing, we got Chris Mullin as backup small forward. Now, he is a sharpshooter. He's great on offense, but we need defense right now. We need defense. So we're going to go Evo that Robert Covington, or we're going to go get ourselves a Kawhi. We're going to keep Nicholas Batum because he's a pretty good defender, but we're going to leave Chris Mullin at the end of the bench, and we're going to bring in Kawhi or Rocco as our backup small forward, power forward, and then we're going to have a better overall defensive team with Drew Holiday, Eric Snow, and those guys out there, and then we're going to have Moses Malone as our center, and now we're not going to be getting cooked on the defensive end. So when we played, I definitely do remember your team not being very strong defensively. So make sure you upgrade your defense if you want to be a better defender. Not offensive cards, unless you're a very high defender like Ty Debo or somebody like that, you can't just use offensive cards and expect to have good defense. So that's what I'm going to say about that. Hopefully you guys make those upgrades. Now we're going to move to some of the bonus teams that just sent them in, and I just think they're really good teams. We're going to put them on the screen real quick. All right, so the first bonus team we have comes from Io Harrow from Twitter, and as you can see, his team just looks overall good. He has 636K MT, a ton of MT, and his team is just flat out pretty good, man. He has a lot of the cards that you should have if you're looking to be super competitive. Only thing I switch is LeBron is getting a little bit outdated, but he still can hold his own. He can easily switch LeBron out if he wanted to. He obviously likes that card because he does have a ton of MT. So do what you would like to do. And he also is on level 39, so he's probably going to have KG soon to add to that power forward spot. So this is a great team. Nice job with it. Let's move to the second honorable mention. All right, y'all. So the last team we're going to cover real quick, another honorable mention or bonus team, comes from my man Nick on Twitter. And his team name is All Money Spent, or his PSN is All Money Spent. And as you can see, this team is wanting for nothing. He has every player pretty much that you could want. And if he doesn't, he has the MT to get them. He does have 700K MT. He has his players where he wants them based on his play style. He has backup power forwards or centers that are bigger if he wants to run a bigger lineup. He has shooters. He has locks. He has people that can control the ball. He can do pretty much everything on the court that needs to be done, and he can switch his lineup around based on what's happening. He has a defensive point guard. He has shooting point guards. He can mix and match however he wants, and he's running players that he's comfortable with, obviously, as well. So I give this lineup, obviously, a 10 based on all the top cards you can get, but also putting the players in the positions that you want them. So nice job with your team, man. Keep it up. I know you're going to keep getting all the top cards. Most likely going to get some of the top cards tomorrow. But until next time, that has been RCA Roster Reviews Episode 2. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And I will make sure I keep putting these out. I'll catch y'all in the next one. Until next time, have a good one, man. Peace.